What's up, guys? Ben here, bringing you another video today. As promised, it is Sunday and we're recording a Q&A video. I tweeted out for some questions. We got a lot of really good ones. I'm going to run through about 14, 15 of them. I'll give you my answers. Let's dive in. First up, we have a question from Bryce, aka Bryce Tacular, aka Caster Goat. Who is the strongest person in CDL that you think you could beat in an arm wrestle? Well, I know I could beat MC, but I don't think MC's been working out recently. I think Austin's been getting him on the gym grind. Man, like, I don't know what people's PRs are. Like, I don't know how to answer this question. Like, I could take Scrappy. I could take Standy. There are definitely other players, probably be a little bit trickier, but I don't know, man. I don't know how to answer this question. It's not like there's a list of PRs and I can go through and tell you who I can and can't be, but it is a funny question. I'll give Bryce that. All right, next up we have Oz Freak Show with an interesting question. If you're a struggling team, at what point do you do the right thing by your players, knowing the team isn't able to fix core issues? E.g. Asim on Ravens and Pred on Search. So those are kind of two different situations. It really depends on the contract situation of the player in question. Are they really trying to leave? You know, we can put kind of Standy also in this box right now as well. Like when you get bench, you know, what are your options? At least sort of in the same boat. Now, with some of the more endemic orgs, we're talking about like a FaZe or an Optic or a Thieves. I think if they're really done with the player, they really want to move on, they'll figure out sort of if the player can make a destination happen, they'll kind of figure out the terms and go. But as we've seen with teams like Seattle and Toronto that aren't coming in and have been a cornerstone part of the Call of Duty scene for a long time, like they don't play by those same rules. So it's really difficult. We haven't seen a player, I think, really try like the James Harden, KD, Kyrie Irving. Sorry to name 3 former Nets players, but like we haven't seen anyone try and make a whole public campaign of leaving yet. But I think for the two ones you described, I think for Pred on Seattle, if they get top 12 again, I think they should have a real conversation about moving on from Pred and letting him go to where he wants to go. But obviously, if Optic play good, that gets complicated and they keep their team together. Asim on Ravens, I mean, after yesterday, like, I mean, if I'm Asim, I'm going through it just on the stuff that I've seen out of my teammates. And there are probably a bunch of teams that may open up potential options for a sub player down the line. So I could see that move happening if London's able to fill his roster spot with someone to bring Trey back in. Following that, we have a fun one from Michael. If you're a GM of a new expansion roster, what is your team? Let's say you can get 1 to 2 substitutes from CDL rosters and the others from challengers, and who would you get to coach? In terms of substitutes, if Scump, I'm going to assume for this that Scump is still getting paid. As far as I know, I don't think he did the method thing where he fully retired. So I think that's still in a deal. He said he's still a substitute. So I'll say Scump, even though he's retired. Maybe that's a little bit of a curveball on my end. I'm going to say Standy because he's now a substitute sitting on the bench. So there's 2 subs right there. As far as ARs, I'm probably picking up Harry and probably like Wardy maybe. Kremp. I think I would do Kremp. So we got like 3 sub players. If I can't pick up Seth, maybe we put Ilya in that spot and we get another AR. But I think kind of a mix of I like the Yuli and Kremp duo if we're gonna do a challengers duo. I like Harry as well as sort of our main AR, and then the flex could be either a 3rd sub or more flex type, but that's what I would do. And then getting a coach is tough because I can't clearly pull from any existing teams who's a head coach, but might give Nagafin a spin in terms of coaches right now. I'd love to have actually Lamar, aka Accuracy, coach this team, but Lamar's currently playing, so can't touch him. But I think that's what I would do in terms of a squad. Lopsided coming in with a fun one. What do you think is Optic starting roster if they don't win champs this year? Well, everybody's linking Pred their squad, so let's say that they get Pred. It's probably Dashi, Shotzi, Pred, and then it's a big question of who's the 4th on the team. Obviously, everybody and their mom wants them to pick up Sib and get those 2 duos together. I mean, as much talented as that team is, I think there's sort of an organizational discipline issue with that squad. But I mean, if they kind of believe their own hype about the Seattle thing, I could see that roster happening. It's just really hard to speculate on stuff 6 months down the line because I don't know like how people are going to play 6 months from now. Are people going to resign? Is it going to be 2 players, 3 players left on the Optic roster? Kind of hard to predict. My guy Dalton comes in with, in 10 years, who do you think will be the GOAT of Call of Duty? Obviously, right now, it's either Crim6 or Scump, depending on how we do the criteria. But on the competitive side, let's put the personality stuff aside and just say, Porter for this situation, Crim6. I think in 10 years, probably Simp. I think he's very much on that path right now. They finally have gotten over the winning hump after going second a million times last season. I think right now they're the clear best team in Atlanta FaZe. If they win a chip this year and they keep this trio going, like they're going to get a lot of different COD champs rings, and I think it's going to be really hard to not put him number one and or have a real conversation about him and Crim6. And keep in mind, by the way, don't say volume of championships. Like, it's just, they're different eras now, and Crim played an era where there were a lot more tournaments, but bro, Sim's career placings are crazy if you think about it. Next up, we got my guy Jack. Who do you think is the next Challengers player to get picked up in the CDL? I think it's probably a couple different options. Yuli was linked to a lot of different teams. I think Kremp is also someone that people are circling. And then on the EU side, I think considering the struggles of London, I think either Harry or Gizmo probably join that team at some point. Some combination of those 4 players, I think it's probably next up. Let's keep it moving with a fun one from Dan with a couple of Tottenham related questions. I know we don't really cover COD in this channel, but let's take a little bit of a detour for a sec. Who does Spurs need to sign to actually start competing for trophies? We need probably 2 new center backs. Destiny coming back from loan at left back. Probably need another midfielder or 2. We're really linking a real creative force in midfield that can consistently do like what Ericsson used to do back in the day. And that's probably enough in terms of personnel. There'll be some other ingoings or outgoings. I think probably another striker will probably help, but because that ties in a second question. Your choice for Harry Kane's replacement if he leaves Bayern? I mean, it depends on like... it depends on what they're willing to spend to get someone. I mean, personally for me, if I can get like any striker in the world, let's talk of like not realistic situations. I love to get Victor Osimhen, who is playing crazy right now for Napoli, but I think every other club's gonna be after him. So yeah, I don't know, and I'm hoping that Harry Kane doesn't leave. And opinions on Darwin Núñez. Finishing has been really a journey for him on that Liverpool squad, but I don't think you can knock his speed in transition, his positionings, like off the ball movement. It's just the finishing right now that has been a little bit of a meme, but like once he starts banging them in more regularly, and I know Liverpool are actually kind of back in a little bit of form right now after their match the other day against Newcastle. I think he's a good signing. All right, let's keep it back moving and getting back on the COD side with trade. Do you think there is a possibility of the Royal Ravens being bought out by another organization? Not really, because they already got bought out by KOI like over the summer. So that already happened. Like they already brought in new money to this organization. I think next question though is this team going to stay as a London branded team, or will KOI moved into a line with more of their Spanish leaning audience? This is a tough name to pronounce. Zlurpio, I think. Zlurpio. Okay. What's your favorite moment that I've experienced at a LAN event? That's a fun one. I mean, the Celium Scump 1v1 and MLG Anaheim was pretty interesting to watch in person. That was a great clutch from Scump. I was in the tent at X Games when Proofy had that crazy ace against what was it, EG or COL at the time in Goose on Sovereign S&D. That was a pretty fun yet to be there moment. I think maybe like when I was one of Clayster's mods and watching him win in my first ever COD event when I went to AW Champs, like that was pretty fun. That was the first time I really experienced like seeing a team win and sort of how they dealt with it. And Clay was obviously had been a professional for a while then. So I think some combination of those were some of my favorite moments for sure. Only a few more left. Let's keep it moving with Hunter. If Hook doesn't perform, and he kind of misspelled perform, but it's all good. Major 3, could you see Optic looking at Standy? I don't know if that's sort of the player that they'd want to get to replace Hook if they're going to drop him. And the other problem too is Toronto don't really sell players. So I don't see that particular move as a likely option down the road here. We haven't had any questions about the rocker yet, but Andrew comes in with one of those. If Minnesota doesn't play squad this up and coming major, do you think they look at the roster or coaches or both? We were talking about this a little bit in the beginning of the season. I think with their recent better play, especially at Major 2 and a little bit online after that reverse sweep against London, it kind of stopped that. This team has been kind of really weekend to weekend. I mean, I think on the roster side, especially yesterday, the play that Cammy made on Broken on Hydro, I think Cammy is definitely the player that's under the most pressure on this roster if we're talking about making a player swap. As far as the coaches go, I mean, that's, I think, a longer term thing with this team, because I think if they have another year again where they're sort of a mid 6th to 8th best team in the league, I do think at some point they're probably gonna need to make a coaching change. And that's not to say that like I think Brian or Looney are bad at their jobs. I just think they may need new voices in that locker room because of the real lack of success. They've only really won one championship in the entire history of that organization, and that was that crazy 0-4 comeback at Major 5 in Cold War. Outside of that, they've been okay, and I don't know if that's good enough for this organization. 2 more left. We're gonna keep it going with JoeB. Who is the greatest team to ever win champs? I think this is a debate on probably these 3 squads. It's either gonna be Complexity in Ghosts, the like Dynasty team in IW, the Optic Dynasty team in IW, or like Cold War phase. It's really just like which of the 3 teams do you think is the best team their year? I think all 3 of them were like very dominant. And I think it just comes down to sort of like how you define which team is better. And it's hard because they were all in sort of different eras, right? COL, that Ghost, that was during sort of the boots on the ground. The jetpacks era, IW was the jetpack wall running era, and then Cold War is, the CDL era. So it's all three different types of eras of COD. Hard to compare them. And finally, we got a interesting one from Jay. When you were in Toronto for Major 3, what was the favorite restaurant? Major 3, I went to a bunch of places, mostly that I got taken by people from the FaZe office in Toronto. Those kind of their normal spots. But I'll be honest, actually, I'm going to kind of do a curveball and say the best place I've been in Toronto was not actually on that trip. It was on another trip. We were in town for a show match. And once again, Seabass over from FaZe Seabass actually took us to this place. It's called Yoso's. And if you've ever seen my profile picture from a long time ago, it was taken at this place. It's most famous as the restaurant where Drake took the picture for the Take Care album cover. It was this incredible like Bosnian seafood place where they come out and they just like, they bring you this platter of fish and you pick the fish and they cook it for you. It's a really cool place and the food was amazing. The calamari was amazing. So that's probably the best restaurant that I've ever been to in Toronto. All right, well, that will do it for the video. Appreciate everybody that sent in your questions for that one. We'll do these Q&As every couple of weeks. I really enjoy reviewing them with y'all. Hope you guys enjoyed. Let me know in the comments what you think. Like if you enjoyed the video. Subscribe for more. On Monday, Tuesday, we'll have a little bit more recap content, or we'll actually have some recap content for you on how this first weekend of the Major 3 qualifiers have played out with a tier list with some more breakdowns. So make sure you stick around for that. And as always, guys, we will see you on the next video.